One of your original investments was Odeo, which
Yes.
Was Ev Williams' company. And
Yes.
tell us what happened there.
About 2 days after my money got wired into Odeo, which was a podcasting company, Apple decided to give podcasting away on iTunes for free. And so for about 6 to 9 months, the company tried to figure out what does that mean and how do I reconcile that. And ultimately, Ev said, look, we don't have a business here, and so I'm going to give you your money back. And I just thought that was such a unique gesture for an entrepreneur that I said I'd only take it back if he let me invest in his next company.
So you let it ride.
Yeah, so I let it ride, and it turned out that he said, you know, I got this side project over here. I don't even know if it's a product, much less a company. And he had 2 names for it at the time. One name was Voicemail 2.0, and the other was Twitter. And I said, well, what does Twitter do? And he goes, well, you just say what you're doing. And I said, well, then what? And he goes, well, 140 characters or less. And I said, and what happens after that? And he said, that's it. That's all it does. And I said, well, what's the roadmap? And he goes, there is no roadmap. And I said, well, how are you going to make money on this thing? I don't know. And so I left that meeting wondering if I'd lost it for sure this time. But I mean, he did say one thing profound, though, and that was that you know, I did blogging software in the past because he had started a company called Blogger. And I just think that if 1 million people would blog, if I make people have the opportunity to do microblogging, maybe tens of millions of people would do that. And I thought, well, if anybody can, he can. And so we gave it a shot.
And let's talk about the Dig story. So you invited Ron Conway for beers, was it? And said, I need to do an investment with you?
Yeah, and he said, sure, right? So we were hanging out at the Oasis, and he said, yeah, happy to do something together. And so I was interested in Dig, and he was meeting with Kevin and Jay at the time. And so Kevin asked me how I found out about it. And the way I did was I was doing a lightsaber video for my son. So I'd have him go out in the backyard with sticks and do like a fake fight, and then you put the light blades on them using Photoshop. And so I was looking for a tutorial on how to do it faster, and I found one on Dig. And so I was like, this is kind of a cool site. And so that's how I got interested in it. And so went and met with them, and I was so positive I wanted in that deal. And so I was willing to do anything to win it. And so,
and you told him?
Yeah, it was a little bit of an unconventional approach, but I told him that I would go on a hunger strike in his apartment if he didn't let me invest. And I guess he was so spooked by that it worked.
And then you've had 2 big exits. There was NG Mocha, which sold for $400 million.
Yeah.
And then there was SolarWinds, which went public.
Yeah.
When did it go public?
So SolarWinds went public in the summer of '09.
And when did you first invest in Solar?
Well, so I got involved with SolarWinds. Actually, I knew about it a long time ago when I was at Motive, before I was an investor. But then when Mike Bennett came on as CEO, he let me get involved. And it's funny because NG Moco is another one of those companies where their path to greatness wasn't linear. They started out trying to sell apps on the App Store, and they realized they couldn't make a big company doing that, so they switched over to free-to-play, and that's when it started working. And so it's funny because a lot of these look like overnight successes, but they all have their near-death experiences and their gut-wrenching changes, and you know, on the inside they all look chaotic and tumultuous and dramatic and everything else.
Is there any deal that you passed on that now you regret?
Yeah, this is painful to admit, but Zynga. And so, you know, Mark Pincus, who's been a friend for a while, actually sent me an email saying, I'd like you to invest in Zynga. And we're already getting some traction. But I just didn't think that Mark was a gaming guy. And I was just like, you know, I don't see how you're going to run a games company. And, you know, that's really too bad. Because as well as the fund has done, if we'd invested in Zynga, it would have just been an epic, it would have been a cataclysmic fund.